Following interview is part of the USMC Vietnam Tankers Association History Project. The interview is being conducted at the VTA reunion in St. Louis, Missouri on September 24, 2017. Interviewees are members of the VTA. The purpose of the History Project in the interviews is to capture the experiences of our Vietnam veterans and make them available for future generations.
Okay, Jim Johnson. I spent 2 tours, 66, 67, and then 68, 69. First one with 1st Tanks, Charlie Company. Second with 3rd Tanks, Alpha Company.
Okay, great. And what would you like to share with us today as part of the interview project?
I wanted to share some maps and stuff like that that are similar to a Lamson 250 interview that I saw.
Okay.
But completely different.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's go.
Okay. All righty. I don't believe they were the same. Matter of fact, in the interview that you had, you interviewed a guy named Wally Young.
Yes.
And he was listening to him. He was kind of confused where he was in this situation.
Right.
And he remembered a jet coming down and warning us about mines and stuff, and I definitely remember that.
Okay.
Now, the units involved, there was my tanks, I had just 3 of them, 3.3, 3.4, and 3.5 from Alpha Company.
Section?
Yeah. And then there was some from Bravo also. But there were 40 APCs that were ARVN. And then on top of that, there was a set of Navy SEALs that came in and made a capture at the place we targeted. So that's it. Now, looking through this, I was trying to figure where this Lamson was. And I brought my old maps, which they gave me, which this is a small representation of it, but it gives the checkpoints where we were supposed to go up to the Ben High, cross it, and come back to this little peninsula.
Okay.
And that's what we did. This all took place later in 68, and I'm not sure the date.
Okay.
Not sure at all. I do remember crossing the Ben High because we checked the tides and everything else, and it was 3.5 feet deep when we crossed. So it was pretty easy crossing. We crossed and went down just basically some sand dunes to a peninsula where we came up over the sand dunes, and lo and behold, they're out there doing jumping jacks. Okay, they weren't cooking or eating like in this other interview. No, they were doing jumping jacks. And I had the frequency of the Navy SEALs because I was coordinating with them. And the situation on this little peninsula was that there was, at certain tides, there was a little river that led right into a headquarters base for this camp. And that's where the SEALs came in. And they ran in there in 5 minutes. They captured the guy and brought him out in the little rubber raft, and off they went.
Where were the SEALs based, do you know?
I do not know, and I can't find it to save my life. I thought maybe they were even ARVN SEALs,
Yeah.
but I was led more to believe that operations of the SEALs did take place up there. They couldn't confirm anything, though. So that's about as far as, it was a dead end on that one.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to tell you there were SEALs involved, and it was a capture operation.
Okay.
All right. We got hit pretty heavy with artillery fire. I don't know what it was, but it was awful big stuff because, well, I know my tank got hit directly, and all I heard was on the radio, you know, as I'm laying in the floor, was Alpha 3-3, are you still there? Are you there? Are you there? You know, all they could see was smoke. So that was about it. If I could find a fellow that was involved in it, he was my gunner. Not on that particular operation, but he was a gunner on another tank. He was given the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry right there. Okay, so if I could ever find those kind of records, at least I could, confirm that. Let's see, that's about it. It had to be a joint operation with Bravo Company because there was a Bravo Company. My gunner was from Bravo Company. He switched over. He wanted to go out. He had 6 days left in the Marine Corps after 6 years. So he wanted to go into North Vietnam. So fine and dandy. So,
sounds like a Marine.
Yeah, and that was about it, really. But I just wanted to, the jet airplanes that Wally Young mentioned took place when we were exiting. We came down, we went up the coast, crossed the Ben High, did our job, came back, and down around here in the sand dunes, I got here marked 750-pound mines and 600 and something pound mines. These were all beforehand that we knew about this. But the pilot saw us heading into that area, so he flew down low. And I wasn't in contact with him. Somebody was, though, because he was telling us to stay out of there. So, yeah. But we knew already.
Wow.
3 Alpha tanks met down in the Quang Tree area and linked up with some Bravo tanks and 40 APC, ARVN APCs. And we proceeded up the coastline to these different checkpoints and ended up in this last one, Delta, checkpoint Delta, which was Cat. It was Cat Phone, Cat Song Phone.
Was it Ocean View?
No.
Okay.
No.
Where was Ocean View in there?
The ocean, to see the ocean?
No, there's an outpost supposedly right up there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. That could have been it. It was right there at the border of the Ben High.
Okay.
But remember crossing, and like I said, I remember the tides being favorable, and they didn't vary that much anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it got 4 feet even times, but it was 3.5 when we crossed. And the idea was to go down and hit this little peninsula. And that's, if you can see this peninsula, it's right on the Ben High.
Right.
And when the tides change, the little river comes in, and that's where the seals were able to go. Now I got some, yeah, they won't show up very much on this, but this is the little peninsula, and I tried to draw how we came in from the north and lined up the tanks here. Now all the APCs were behind us. Mm-hmm. As soon as the firing started, they left. They were gone. Honest to God.
No, that didn't surprise me.
They were just gone. Whatever it was, they were, they didn't like that artillery coming in. But this is what we were shooting at, this river, and here was the headquarters. It was looks like an old church or schoolhouse or something like that. But that's where the SEALs went in. And like I say, 5 minutes later, they had them, and they were off and running.
And now did you fire in there after the SEALs made the
We were firing all the time during that time. Yeah, we were firing over them. Yeah, we were firing, 100 yards and back of them.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it. And I just wanted to share that with you because there had to be many of these things, not just one. And I don't think there's a name to this one at all.
Probably not if you went across the Ben High.
That could be. Yeah. That could be.
We weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah. Well, nobody told me anything like that. Yeah. We weren't supposed to do a lot of things, but I got chewed out quite a few times by a general that came up to Cantien I was shooting over the DMZ. I hit a convoy of trucks, and then explosions all left and right. It seemed like all night long. Well, they were building an airport, but he chewed me out for a good half hour. Then he said, "Yeah, one hell of a shot." Yeah, one shot. So anyway.